Okay, today we're going to do Nazir Daf Zion. Yeah, that's 7a. Start at the Mishnah. I think Hashem, we're able to learn every day. So the learning we should have this immediately before Shlema. Okay, so the Mishnah starts like this. It's like 3 lines down, right? 4 lines down. Amar, the person says, Hareini Nazir Achas Gedola. I'm going to be one big Nazir.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Ramesha. Or if he says, Hareini Nazir Achas Ketana, he says, I'm going to be one small Nazir. So Afilu Mikan Vad Seif Eilam. Okay, now it's unclear if he's adding this on to his previous statement or if this is a third statement. And that may be a difference between the version of the text. We said, I'm going to be a big Nazir first, then a small Nazir second. What's the second clause? Second case. Now he says, even from now until the end of the world, he's only a Nazir for 30 days. So big and small clearly did not mean in time. Big and small just meant maybe hard and it's hard for him or it's easy for him. And then the interesting thing is when he adds on to that and he says, or if he says a separate statement, be a Nazir from now till the end of the world, he only means Nazir for 30 days. The Gemara is going to explain that he means that it's as hard as if he had to go to the end of the world. There's different explanations for that. One of them is that whenever we have an option of how to define the Nazir, we always go lenient. Whenever we have an option of how to interpret what he means, we always go lenient. Because this is a possible explanation, so we can accept the possible explanation. That's the more lenient explanation. Did I see that? That I think I saw in the commentary in the Rivan.
More lenient, meaning 30-day period.
30 days, yeah.
The harsher one is 29.
No, the harsher one would be forever.
So in the case that they want to do more than 30 days, he would have to specify like the time. Like there's no handle for that.
Well, the handle part was when he wasn't saying clearly that he's going to be a Nazir. He said that, but we know that he means a Nazir, so that would be like a handle to saying Nazir. Now we're specifying the time of what type of Nazir, how long the Nazir is. Yeah, so that I don't know if that has a handle.
From this example, looks like it doesn't. Like if he wants to do more than 30 days, he has to specify 6
Right.
days, 9 days.
Right, 100%. 100 days. Okay. Let's take a look at the Gemara. Amai. Why does it work like this? He says from now until the end of the world. Why? What do you mean that he's only a Nazir for 30 days? Okay, so the Gemara says, Achikamar. What he means to say is like this. It's so like long for me, as if it's from now till the end of the world.
So if he says he wants to be a Nazir until
The end of the world. He's only a Nazir for 30 days. The Gemara asks, but why? He said till the end of the world. Does it just means it's difficult for him to the end of the world? Now, what's going to come out here, something like a little bit difficult to swallow, but it's going to come out is that the end of the world has a time limit. What is the end? It's the distance to walk from here to the end of the earth has a specific time, and it's not considered an infinite number. How long is it? It's a 500-year walk. Kumar says 500-year walk. I don't know if it was the one of the Greeks figured out how to measure the circumference of the Eratosthenes figured out based on the shadow of the pyramids, maybe of something. He was able to tell that from the angle how long it would go if you could continue that.
It's pretty accurate.
So, yeah,
They reminded me, there's like a clock, like I guess they used to use like a long time ago. You put it like on the
yeah, the
floor.
sundial,
Yeah.
sundial, right? So we actually have a limited amount. So what the way it's being explained here is that if he actually wanted to say a specific time, he should have said the 500-year walk. In the distance, yeah, as if it like the distance it takes me to walk till the end of the earth. Yeah, I guess the way they measured the distance was in time. Right. Like measuring speed. Right. What are you working out? The circumference of the earth?
Approximately, it's about approximately 25,000 miles.
Could be a little bit more than that.
Approximately. So if you divide that by 500 years, how much is that per year?
Calculator.
Officially, a person walks 40 parsecs a day, right?
That's
No, yeah, he walks 40 parsecs a day.
or so was a mile
I
approximately.
don't know. Parsa was
No,
8,000
You
amos.
said how is 25,000?
That you say.
No, 40 mil a day.
Huh? You said 24,000. 24,000. By 500,
48.
48.
48 years.
I don't know.
What's the meaning of the numbers?
48 miles a year.
You can do more than 48 miles.
So you can walk around the earth in a year and a half. There goes that.
You can do more than 48 miles a year. You probably do a few
No,
miles a
it's
day.
not enough to challenge.
Maybe you could stop at like all the different restaurants.
We'll see. We'll see in a second. Let's go. Let's see. Hey, Tanan, we learned in the Mishnah, Harini Nazir, it's actually a Mishnah coming up. It says, Harini Nazir mikanad makamplaini. He accepts on himself, I'm a Nazir from here until such and such a place. You have to measure how long is the distance from here to such and such a place. If it worked out that that distance to that place is less than 30 days, so Nazir Shleishim Yom, he's a Nazir for 30 days. Why? Because there's no such thing as a Nazir that's less than 30 days. So even if it's only 1 day away, he's already in Nazir for 30 days. So anything in between 1 and 30 is going to be 30. But if it's more than 30 days, Nazir Kaminya Nayamim, then he's going to be a Nazir like the amount of days that it takes. So if it takes 35 days to walk, there's a Nazir for 35 days. So the Gemara says, why are you telling me that in our Mishnah, when he says, I'm a Nazir from here to the end of the earth, we say that it means that it's as difficult to me as the end of the earth, but I'm only a Nazir for 30 days. And when he says from here until Tallahassee, which is 34 days or something, we say that he's a Nazir for 34 days. No, it's we should say the Gemara is asking, we should say that it's as difficult as 34 days. Rava says Sheichzik Baderech because he's on the road. Different story. If someone's on the road, and then he takes a vow that he's a Nazir from here until a certain place. So, the Rush put this. It's very interesting. He said, he's concerned about dangers on the road. So, as a protection, he accepts on himself to be a Nazir the amount of days of this trip. So we know that he actually means the days of his trip is significant. It's not just figurative, because he's concerned about protection on being on the road. So that's a different story. So there we're assuming that that's what he means. Gemara now asks, "V'lehevi kol parsa parsa." Now there's two ways of understanding what the Gemara is asking. One way is, we just said that if someone's on the road, so he's a nazir for, he says he's a nazir from now until he reaches a certain place. So we have to measure that out. So we said that he's a nazir for that amount of time. It's one long nazirus for that amount of time. Gemara asks, "Well, have you called parsa parsa? Why is it just one long nazirus? Let him be a nazir for every single parsa." You know, on the side of the road, they have these markers of the miles. So let it be a nazir per mile. Right? The Gemara is calling it a parsa, per parsa. Why is it one long nazirus? It could just be divided up for every parsa was another nazirus. That means 30 days plus another 30 days plus however long it takes. Amar of Papa, that's one way of reading the Gemara. The other way of reading the Gemara is that it's actually going back on our Mishnah. But,
If you do like 30 days, like this work, like he might arrive there like day 37.
right.
So then he'll still have like extra days that he has to continue. Because the minimum is 30 days. He would have to do 60 days.
No.
If you add 30 days and 30 days and 30
Yeah,
days.
but what would come out, what the original Mishnah, the way we understood the Mishnah was that he's a Nazir, one long Nazirus up until day 37, if that's how long the trip took. So he's a Nazirus of 37 days, which anything over 30 is a possibility. What the Gemara is suggesting now is that why is it one long Nazirus divided up into individual Nazirus of each amount of distance?
But if you divide it,
It's going to be way longer than 37 days,
it would have to be minimum.
because
60.
each one is going to be 30 days. Every Nazirus is an individual Nazirus of 30 days each. Amar Rav Papa says, "Basid leimani parsi," talking about where they don't have these markers on the road. They don't have the parsa mile markers. Gemara says, "Well, v'lehevi kol avna ve'avna." Yeah, avna, uvna. So why don't you have every rest area? I didn't know what this word meant. I looked in the gesture. A station, and it comes from the Hebrew word ma'ain. Ma'ain hayisalano. You were a abode. And in Aramaic, it turns into avna, which is the ayin and the aleph are interchangeable, and then the vav, which was in Hebrew was a vowel, was a chaylam. When it switches over, it becomes a consonant. It's avna, as it comes like a vase. So the vowel turns into a consonant. So, okay, even if you don't have mile markers, but you definitely have stations, and we should count every station. Okay, so Milay Tanan does it not say in the Mishnah, Harini Nazir Kafar Aretz, Kasaraishi Kachalayam Harezin Nazir Aylam Magaleach Echad Lashleishim Yaim. Someone says that I should be a Nazir like the dust of the earth, or like the hairs on my head, or like the sand in the sea. So he's a Nazir forever. Now, when it says he's a Nazir forever, it actually means over here that he's a Nazir many, many times, not one long Nazir. In the term Nazir Olam, I think what it really means to say is Nazir li Olam. Because the Nazir Olam is different. The Nazir Olam is he's a Nazir for his whole life, and he's never allowed to shave his head. No, that's not true. He's allowed to shave his head once a year, or possibly once every 30 days. Now, this is confusing now. Because if it's over here, the Mishnah says clearly he shaves his head every 30 days. Now, does that mean that he's a Nazir like Avshalom? Or does that mean, which is the actual wording, Nazir Eilam is Nazir like Avshalom? Or does it mean that he starts a new Naziris every 30 days? In other words, I'm not sure over here what it means. Does it mean that he's a Nazir that is allowed to trim his hair, a Nazir Eilam? Or does it mean that he's a Nazir Lit Eilam and he trims and he actually restarts a new Naziris every time? Let me see how it says it over here.
It'd be like, he goes through 30 days for each grain of sand.
Right, 30 days for each grain of sand.
If you want to read it.
No, that's the halacha. No, 1 second. Start a new term of Naziris every 30 days the rest of his life. It's a new term of Nazir. So it doesn't mean Nazir Eilam. It actually means Nazir Lit Eilam. That's how this would be explained. Let me just see if they add in the Lamed in this commentary. Harizin Nazir Eilam. Harayu Nazir Nazirius Harbe Zuach Hazu b'meshach kol yimei chayav. Okay. So he's going to be a Nazir forever, but only because it restarts every 30 days because there's so many hairs on his head. Not me. There's so much sand in the sea or whatever it is, right?
It's like auto renewed every 30 days.
Right.
So he would have to be in Jerusalem every 30 days.
Bring the sacrifices, like the dust of the earth. Okay, so what we're left with now is a question of why don't we say that when he gives such a long distance, like a long amount, we say that he's a Nazir for so many terms, right? Like seems like almost an infinite amount. So, which would mean that he's a Nazir his whole life. So why don't we say that when he gives a distance of the road? He says, until such and such a place, he should be a Nazir for the amount of stations that there are along the way. Okay. So the Gemara says, Kol milsa de ispe kitsusa like tani. Well, this is a difficult answer. The Gemara says, anything that has a set number. So the set number means that that's the one long term up until that number. But anything that doesn't have a set number, and it's infinite, we consider it infinite, so then it actually restarts forever. It keeps restarting forever. It's not one long term. If you want to have one long term, you have to actually put a designated time on it. Something that's not an infinite number. If the Gemara here was asking, going back on the Mishnah, we've been reading it that it's following the Gemara's question. The Gemara says, I'll be a Nazir until such and such a place. So it depends. So that was clearly a defined number. So he was only going to be a Nazir until that time, until the length of how long it would take to get there, 37 days or whatever. But if the Gemara was going back and asking on the Mishnah, when the Mishnah says, Afilu mikan vad seifa olam, if he's a Nazir from now until the end of the earth, we said that was considered something difficult. We didn't say that was, we said it was just a Nazir for 30 days, right? We said, I'm a Nazir from here to then. The Gemara was then asking, so why isn't he a Nazir for every parsa? I said, because they don't use parsas. So why isn't he a Nazir for every station? So he's saying, well, because why isn't he a Nazir for every station? Don't we see that you could be a Nazir many, many times over and over again? My answer is that that's only if it's a infinite amount. You keep starting over. But because it's not an infinite amount, because the distance to walk around the earth is not an infinite amount, then we don't say that it's a new Naziris every time. Then the question is, so why isn't it at least that amount of time? That's funny. What the Gemara is going to be. What doesn't it really answer the question? It seems easier to do it the first way. But, okay. Bahatanya. And we have learned in a brisa. Now we quote a brisa. Seems a little complex, but apparently this brisa is being quoted to support what we just said. Bahatanya many times is a question. But wasn't it taught in a brisa? And then we ask the question. But sometimes Bahatanya is also a statement. And this is what was taught, because Baha could be translated as this or but. And this is what was taught in the brisa. Notice the following brisa is a proof. Yeah, in Nidarim, we didn't have any Bahatanyas that were questions. All the Bahatanyas were proofs. Anyway, Bahatanya, this is supposed to be a proof. Harini Nazir Kol Yemei Chaye. Someone says, I'm going to be a Nazir all the days of my life. Well, is that a set amount of time or is that an infinite amount of time?
This does not mean that he is a Nazarite forever. He's a particular type of Nazarite known as permanent Nazarite. So just like a Shalom.
Right. So, but we don't have a set time on what the days of his life are because we don't know that. So it's an undefined number. Harini Nazir Kol Yemei Chaye is an undefined number. Harini Nazir Olam. Let's say he says, I'm going to be a Nazir forever, which is Nazir Olam. We know what a Nazir Olam is. We had that before. A Nazir Olam is like Avshalom, where he's a Nazir his whole life. So Haray's a Nazir Olam. He's going to be a Nazir his whole life. Even though he said Kol Yemei Chaye, maybe that would mean that he should start over or something. We don't say that. Afilu Meya Shana, Afilu Elef Shanim. Let's say he says, I'm going to be a Nazir for 100 years. I'm going to be a Nazir for 1,000 years. It sounds like those prison sentences.
7 lifetimes.
Right. So, Ein Zeh Nazir Olam as Ela Nazir Li Olam. Then we don't say that he's a permanent Nazir. We say that he's a Nazir for 30 days, but it just keeps going on forever. Every 30 days it restarts. Why? Because he gave a defined number. 100 years, 1,000 years, even though that seems like an infinite amount for a lifetime, but that's actually a defined number. It's 100 years or 1,000 years. As opposed to all the days of my life is an undefined number. Interesting. And an undefined number is one long term. Defined number is restarting. Rabba says, Shani Sare, Salem of Sumizu. When he mentioned the hairs, you see, and the grains of sand, or the sand, the dirt of the earth, so each one is a separate piece. So therefore, he is a Nazir over there, Le'olam, not Olam. He's a Nazir Le'olam. It means he keeps starting his 30 days over because he's a Nazir like the grains of sand, like the hairs on his head. So each one restarts. Okay, we did the first hair, we did this hair, we did the next hair. What about the days? He says, I'm a Nazir for all the days of his life. He says, Gabi Yaminami. What are you saying? Gabi Yaminami. So, also the days are divided. There's separate calendar days. This is one day, this is another day, right? It was evening, it was morning, it was one day. So that means that the days are divided. So why, when he says all the days of his life, does he not have to restart every 30 days and just recount? Of course, he's not going to be able to get 30 days out of every day, right? He won't be able to fit that in, right? So, but whatever the case is, he should be able to restart it as individual Naziris. Says Hassam lav the mafsake me'adadihu. Over there, it's not really divided. The days are not divided. Micah Amar, what is he saying? Yimama v'layla chad yaimahu. The day and the night is one day, but they're not separated from one another. So it's just a continuous. So therefore, Rabba's answer is that there's a difference between hairs on the head and days of his life. Days of his life would just be, would be. Actually, days of his life would be one long term. Yeah. One long term. And the hairs on his head would be separate terms. Those are separate pieces.
What is the difference that he points out?
According to Rabbah, when he associates it with the hairs on his head, so that means that he's doing 30 days, 30 days, 30. Each hair, it gets another 30 days, separate Naziris. When he says, I'm a Nazir all the days of my life, we don't say that each day is a separate Naziris, and I should have to count 30 days every time. Rather, we say it's just one long Naziris, because the days is a continuum.
The part that I was confused, when they say like 1,000 years is like infinite, and then like the sand of the sea is to me is like also infinite.
Yeah, well, they're viewing the hairs on the head, the sand of the sea, and the dust of the earth as infinite, but 1,000 years is a defined number.
Okay.
And also the walking around the earth is also a defined number. 500 years defined.
Was it the opinion that the earth was round? Is that like a unanimous thought back to them?
In the Gemara in Talmud, I think it said that was a discussion. Not all the sages understood that, I think. Or at least the way they presented was not like that. But then I think it says they agreed that it was round.
Can't you go around the world in 80 days? Apparent thing. That was 500 years.
Yeah, because they were walking.
No balloons.
That was a balloon, right? That was the
Yeah.
okay. What they call it back then? The balloon was not a blimp. They called it a Zeppelin.
The one was the big one. Visual. What's the old-fashioned balloon with hot air in it?
Yeah, the hot air balloon.
Hot air balloon.
The hot air balloon.
The
Okay.
Gemara forgot that every Jew got a dog when they got out of Yerushalayim, so the walk took longer. And by the way, it was Led Zeppelin, great band.
It's Gemara shir.
Rava says, Lamalach Akshiya Kulehai. Why do you have to ask all of these questions? Shani Hassam, Daktani Harini Nazirachas. Rava says that we can answer all the questions just like this. When he said in the Mishnah, Harini Nazir Achas Gedoyla, Harini Nazir Achas Ketana, Afilu Mikan Vat Seifa Olam, we could say that Afilu Mikan Vat Seifa Olam is when he's saying, I am going to be one Nazir, and one Nazir is even that's like from now till the end of the earth. But what he really means to say is that it's going to be difficult. Why? But how do we know that? Because he said, I'm going to take on one Nazir. So he said that clearly that he's taking on one Nazir. Okay.
But wouldn't that be limited, and then it would be
Which is one Nazir. It is only one Nazir. It's only 30 days. We're going back on the Mishnah where it was only 30 days. Okay.
How come nobody comes outside with kind of like, he could have meant, like, so, it's, I'm a Nazir, I'll stay in Nazir, even if I go and take a plane to France and come back, like I leave town. I don't know, staying with Nazir. Because you have people.
Even if I
that
travel.
comment, when you're on vacation, don't forget your Yiddishkeit.
Right.
So don't forget you're a Nazir. Want to go drink in Paris?
That type of
Stick to scotch.
that type of interpretation would be like there is a very academic approach to studying Mishnayos, where they study the Mishnayos just from the Mishnah's perspective, without the Gemara interpretation of it. They take all the Mishnayos and they learn it like from the Mishnayos, what could it mean? But the yeshivas don't. You would see that in academic work. Maybe what the Mishnah means is that even if I'm going to travel, even Kana Tzeifa Olam, I'm always going to be a Nazir. But the Gemara ignores that possible interpretation. So, see, you went to college.
It'd be my worst today. Right?
If you're perplexed.
Okay.
I'm by myself next to me.
That was Rabbi Soloveitchik's
I'm
the famous talk.
Oh, no.
No, yeah, the famous talk about that studying that in walks Rabbi Akiva and in walks the Rambam and in walks like described like what was going on in the studying, and then it's like, and here we are, like as if this is like the one long tradition of. Okay. Harini Nazir Yom Echad. I'm sorry. Harini Nazir. The Mishnah says, B'Yom Echad. I should be a Nazir plus 1 day. So Harini Nazir. B'Sha'achas. I'm a Nazir in 1 hour. Harini Nazir Achas Umechza. I am a Nazir 1.5. Or he's a Nazir Shtayim. He's two Nazirs, because you don't really have 1 day, 1 hour, or a half. The smallest amount, 30 days. 30
You
days.
can't say a week.
No. Once, if you say a week, it's 30 days. So if you say a day, it's 30 days. So because he said I'm a Nazir, plus a day, plus an hour, plus something, so it becomes 1 more. So it's going to be 2.
It's just very interesting.
So you go over the limit, you're
That
already
sounds
on your
like
second
the
Nazir.
So there's no such thing as 31 and 32. It's 30 or 60.
No, actually not. There is. You could have a 31, 32, 33, but you have to specify that. But if anything unspecified is automatically 30.
Well, you did specify 7 in this example I'm saying.
So
If
if you say 7, then it would be 30.
yeah.
But if you say
you
37,
don't
then it
just
would be
dismiss it. You
37.
don't just say like that makes no sense. We're just going to go
Right,
what I just said.
Right.
No.
You say it's actually.
Didn't we have a similar machlokas about he says I'm a Nazir just for grapes?
Oh yeah, we had that. Who said that? That was a Reb Shimon. That was a Reb Shimon.
Oh, the other
I
one.
think they said that like if he took like a partial, he took on the whole.
Yeah, that was a Machlekes Rabbanan and Reb Shimon. Lamali
Academics.
Lamali lemisni kalhani. Why do you need so many examples of the same thing? Well, tzricha, it's necessary. The Itana Hareini Nazir v'yom echad, if it would say I should be a Nazir plus a day. Hachu damrina ne Nazirs l'yom echad. Here we would say that there's no such thing as Nazirs for a day. So I'm tulahachi, and therefore, kamani tartan, it's going to count 2 Nazirs. Aval Hareini Nazir v'sha'achas. But if he's going to say I'm a Nazir in an hour, plus an hour, nimnei lamed ve'achad yom. Maybe he's supposed to count 31 days because, well, there's no such thing as an hour, so we'll just add on another day. So kamash malan, that we're not adding on another day, we're adding on another 30 days. Itana shachas, and if it would say the 1 hour, leduka, I think that's how it's pronounced, because he wasn't specific. An hour sounds specific. Abal achas umechza, the nachas leduka, emaloi limni tarti. But if he says 1.5, then I would say that maybe he actually means 45 days. And that should be 45 days. Kamash Malana comes to teach us Kulu Nazir Shtayim, that it's not 45 days. It's going to be 2 Naziris. Because 1.5, yeah, it has to, the half, I'm not sure why it has to be like that. Why doesn't he actually get 45 days? Let me see what they
Maybe it wasn't specific enough for them.
Right, still not specific enough.
Well, because he already declared that he's a Nazir. So the basis we're dealing with is I got 30 days. And now he's adding to that and a half. You got to work from the last subject, which is 30 days, and not say, oh, you only half of an hour.
Right.
It's a half of
Because he already said, the problem is because he already said
It's
Hareini
fine,
Nazir.
it's fine.
Because he gave his first one already in total, Hareini Nazir. How would he want it? How would he say 45 days? I guess he would have to say 45 days. Achas umechza. Let's see if there's a comment here. I don't get what they're saying there. They're saying that he there's some sort of distinction. I could have thought that there's a distinction between I'm a Nazir and a day, or I'm a Nazir and a half. A Nazir and a day is, that means the day is separated. But I'm a Nazir and a half, that could be, I could have thought that that's like one long 45-day Naziris. Yeah, I don't get what the Havamina is, what the Maskana, like what switched in the understanding here that we're explaining.
When the Kohen Gadol would say in Achas v'Achas,
Yeah.
that was his first counting, right? And then Achas U'Shtayim is the second one, correct?
No, Achas was when he did Achas Lamaila. He did one like uphand, and then Sheva Lamata. So then he had to count the recount.
The first time it was still
Achas.
Oh, it was Achas to start.
Achas. He does Achas. Then the second one is Achas v'Achas. Yeah.
Trying to bring the.
Okay, we're going to go back over the something that we quoted. It says, "Harini Nazir Shleishim Yaim v'Shachas." Well, this is a different story. Now he's actually giving a number of days. Before he said, "I'm a Nazir plus a day." Here in this Mishnah, he says, "I'm a Nazir for 30 days and an hour." So if that's the case, then Nazir Shleishim v'Echad Yaim, then we actually count it as 31 days, as we were thinking before, that it should have been 31 days. That was the Havamina before, right? Shein Nazir Shleishais, because there's no such thing as a Nazir for a certain amount of hours. There's only a certain amount of days. Amar Rav. Rav says, Leishanu al damar Shleishim v'Echad Yaim. He has to say it that I'm a Nazir for 31 days. Avalamar Shleishim v'Yayim Echad. But if he says, Shleishim Yayim v'Yayim Echad, I'm a Nazir for 30 days in a day, so then he's in trouble. He's Nazir Shtayim, he's a Nazir twice.
You could be a Nazir for 12 hours. If you've completed 29 and a half days, now you only have a Nazir for 12 hours left.
No, he's a Nazir. He's a 30-day Nazir in his last 12 hours. It's not a 12-hour Nazir. We have a cake that has like a timer. One of the cake, the cake like a pound cake or something. There's a cake that has like a 3-hour. It's something a cake that has like a number on it or something. Well, they have with meats. They have like the something hour roast or something. You know.
Oh, how long to do it?
They have like they put numbers on things. Is there such a thing? No, like here I'm saying that the Naziris is a 30-day Naziris, even though he only has 12 hours left. So it's not a 12-hour Naziris. Dr. Stein was saying that no, you could be a 12-hour Nazir if you have your 12 hours left. You're not Nazir for 12 hours. I mean, no, you're a 30-day Nazir in your last 12 hours. Okay. So the Gemara says Rav Savalak Rabbi Akiva. The fact that Rav is so specific over here that if he says you have to say I'm a Nazir for 31 days, not say I'm a Nazir for 30 days in a day, that means that he's following Rabbi Akiva's view. The Darish Lishni Yisrael there, Rabbi Akiva says that even Rabbi Akiva we know does this with the Torah, but he even does it with people's speech. That if they add in an extra word, then it's coming to teach me a whole other thing. It goes like this. The Tanana was taught in the Mishnah. Someone sells a property to his friend, and now in the property was a bar, a pit, probably a well of some sort, or a dus is another type of pit. I don't know the difference. Cistern. It says, "Lo yasa bar v'lo yasa dus." He did not sell to him. The seller retains the cistern that was in the property. Even though when he sold the property, he said, "I'm selling you with the height of the house or whatever, and the depth of the house, everything that's there." Even though he wrote that, but that doesn't include the cistern that was there. However, because he sold him the whole property, and he didn't retain anything for himself other than that cistern, he doesn't have a pathway to get to the property, and the seller now has to go back to the buyer and purchase a path to get into his cistern and to get the access of it. The Chachamim say no, he doesn't need to purchase a path, because that was understood that if he retains that cistern there, that he's going to have the path to it. Rabbi Akiva would agree. If the seller says, "I'm selling you the property except for these," even though it's anyways except for those. But if he adds in the word "except for these," so then that extra term that he uses when he says "except for these," which it was except for these, even if he didn't say that,
It's implicit.
because it's in, right that he only sold everything else. No, if he sells the property, then he actually did not sell the cistern. But if he says, "I'm selling the property except for the cistern," so then he doesn't have to purchase the path. He says, because, right, yeah, but it's because of that extra language that seems to be not necessary, but it is adding in that he doesn't have to get a path. So what we're saying here is that Rabbi Akiva, that learns from the person's language, it says chutz mi'elu, that would be a support for Rav, or that Rav says if he says 30 days versus 30 days in a day, that would be a problem. That would be an extra Nazir. Okay, let's leave it here.
The zero.
Yeah, we're perfect at the end.
Thank you, Rabbi.